All right, guys. So we are going to start moving into our next unit. Okay. Um, we have now closed out 4 units. And for eighth grade, we've only got, well, about 10. Okay. So we're almost halfway there. Obviously, we're getting close to halfway through the year. But we're moving on and a little bit away from the linear side of things. Okay. And I say just a little bit because we are going to still be looking at lines in this unit. Okay. But this unit is unit 5, statistical statistical relationships. Okay. So statistical or statistics, as it would be, are just collected data, and then it's through mathematical means represented in percentages and outcomes and things like that. And we're just talking about how those statistics are related in this unit. And don't let that scare you at all, right? This is a fairly straightforward unit as far as concepts go. But we are trying to analyze and predict and those kind of things so that we can talk about how things are related. So you can think about statistics like the percentage of students passing, right, their CUAs. Well, that increases depending on the time you study, right? That's a statistic. We would track the time you study and your score and be able to tell you, well, based on that information, the likelihood of passing your CUA based on, right, the time studied. So those are statistics, right? It's collecting data and then analyzing. All right. And so to speak to data, okay, we have in this unit several different types we'll talk about. Okay. But just to introduce it, right, we have univariate data. Okay, so univariate data, right? You can see it's got a prefix of uni there, meaning, right, one data piece, which we would also call our variable, right? There's one variable being collected. All right. So if we think about what it means to be univariate, you can think about, well, let's say we are asking, right, for our example, we're going to be asking eighth grade students number whoops, of siblings. Okay. That's the question, right? We're going to ask eighth grade students number of siblings, right? So the only thing we're tracking thing being tracked is number of siblings. Okay. The other part of it, right? They're all eighth grade. Okay. So the only thing being tracked is the number of siblings, right? That's the only thing being tracked. Hence, right, one piece of data. We're going to collect the number of siblings, and then we can, represent that through some sort of graph or interpretation. All right. Our unit is this. It's going to be focused on bivariate. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on bivariate data. Okay, and again, we have the prefix, right, of bi. Um, and if you think about the word bicycle, right, compared to unicycle, that should tell you kind of where we're going to go with this definition, right? We have two. pieces of data. Okay, so, and again, these are our variables. Okay, two pieces of data being tracked. All right, so for this example, right, you can think about lots of different things that we could ask. But for our example here, right, let's talk about, I don't know, something like the value of a car after so many years have passed. Okay, so what is the value of a car after so many years have passed? Well, if you look at that situation, right, we've got two things being tracked. We have, right, two things being tracked. Okay, so we have the value, right, or money as one of our variables. Okay, and then we could say, right, how many years have passed. Okay, so we're tracking something like a XY relationship, right? So we've only got we've got two things being tracked here. And again, those are implied, right? So we can link these to graphical representations. And we can think about, right, what happens to the value of a car over time. And you know, in a situation of a graph, right? And we'll talk about this tomorrow. But right, just to give you a little preview, okay? So our value, right, is going to be our y-axis. So we're going to say value in dollars and years for our x-axis. And so this very much so lends ourselves to science, where we're creating some sort of representation, and we can look at, like, what is that car's value doing over a certain amount of time. And so we'll kind of give it a range. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? We could say our years, right? A 1 year past, 2 year past, 3 year past. And then maybe this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 value, and we can say this is in thousands, right? So that's 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. All right. So let's imagine then that we bought a car at the dealership. Maybe we paid $8,000 for it. So no time has passed. We bought that car for $8,000. Well, what happens in the value of a car is, you know, as you put miles on it and as time passes, the value of that car starts to decrease. Okay, so we can track then at 1 year what was the value of the car. And we'll just say that it fell to $7,000, right? Year 2, right? Maybe it fell just a little bit less, and it was like 6,500 or so. Year 3, maybe it's about 5,700, right? Year 4, those cars took a really big hit in the market and they went down. And you can see how there's a little bit, but then, right, the name brand came back, and so it might have gained a little bit of value in year 5. Just based on the market and people liking that model of car. And then year 6, right, it dips again, but not as much. So we're here. But then by year 7, the fat is kind of worn off and it's starting to fall again, right? So we are tracking this data over time. And you can see we have two variables here. We have the number of years that have passed and what the value would be. Okay, so we have an input of years and output of value, or an X in years, a Y in value. And we can track that data, and plot that data and collect that data, right? So what I'm going to ask you to do, right, um, as an assignment today is simply, in a discussion, post an example of some sort of bivariate situation. Okay. So I've used the value of a vehicle over a certain number of years. And you can just kind of feel free to Google search, right, for some different examples. That's the point. It's okay that you were to search for this, or simply think of it off the top of your head. But two variables that are related, right? So there is some trend that we could follow. You have to make sure the two things can be tracked together. But, give me an example in the discussion of what bivariate data, or a situation that would be represented by a bivariate situation. Okay. So two variable situation that can be tracked. All right. So if you have any comments or questions, just send me a message on Schoology. If not, I look forward to seeing your responses. You guys have a nice day. Thanks, guys.